been getting a lot of questions lately on how to open up a martial arts school or a small business and some of the things that go into it and the planning and just my insights from I've been running Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas for approximately 8 years, and I transitioned after 33 years in the US Navy. I transitioned into running a martial arts school every day, and this is what I do now. So for the past 8 years, some of the lessons I learned, and I want to share with you, and I'm going to share them with you over a series of videos, and a lot of it's going to depend on the interest, because there's so much to running a small business that I'm going to break it up into smaller parts, and I'm going to try to keep each video around, 5 to 10 minutes, but I don't want to make some 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour video, which was ultimately what you would need to do it justice, and that would still only hit the tip of the iceberg of the things that you're going to need to know for business on running a small business. So I'm going to try to break it up into manageable parts, and I've got some ideas, some topics I'm going to talk about, but ultimately your questions are going to dictate, some of the videos that I'm going to do. So I'm going to try to answer specific questions the best I can. And then, once we do the videos, and like I said, it depends on interest, maybe I'll do a live stream where you can just ask me live questions on, business. And what I'm going to talk about will apply to both opening up a martial arts school and, just small business in general. And a lot of it is just lessons learned over the past 8 years. So some of the things I want to talk about for today is, one, plan in advance. So, let's say you're 10 years out. If you could be 10 years out planning for your small business, that would be much better than if, hey, I'm going to open up next month. It's like, okay, we're going to do the best we can to give you your advice and answer your questions. But the more you plan out, the better. And for a multitude of reasons. One, you need to determine how you're going to fund this business. Roughly when I opened this up in 2016, it cost me roughly about $30,000. It was about maybe $10,000 for the mats, another couple thousand for the to bring the building up to code for the city inspectors. The big Brazilian Jiu Jitsu neon sign, that was like $6,000 or $7,000. Where I didn't think it would cost that much. But it's like they have to make the sign, they have to install the sign. There's an electrician. There was a crane operator. It was more detailed than I thought. And then building this out, another couple thousand. And then I'm probably missing a couple things. But then you have to anticipate that when you start off, you're losing money. Because you don't have students that are going to cover your expenses. So you need money in reserve to sort of cover the monthly rent and the expenses that come along to operate your business. So for me, it was roughly around $30,000. With inflation, it may be more now, and a lot of it's going to be area dependent. But you need to figure out how you're going to fund this. What I did is I funded it out of my investments because I planned it up. My wife and I had been planning this for 7 or 8 years, and so just out of savings, we came up with the $30,000 to make this happen. Probably some of the most common ways is people take a small business loan. But keep in mind, if you take a small business loan, that becomes a monthly expense that you're going to have to add to your Excel sheet. Okay, every month, maybe I have to pay $500 or $1,000 a month towards this small business loan, depending on how big the loan is. Probably the most common thing people do is, at least in martial arts, is you'll see a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, and then they'll partner up with sometimes a white belt or a blue belt who's financing it all. And they're partners. The Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt teaches all the classes, basically runs the day-to-day school, and then the silent partner, who sometimes stays silent, they're in the background and they're funding it all. That is pretty common, but what I have seen is that usually ends badly because the person that's funding it all now wants a say in how everything's going, because they're like, sort of like B.B. King said in his old song, I'm paying the cost to be the boss. Like I'm funding all this. I want input on how the school is run. And I usually see that go badly for schools. So taking on a partner can be very challenging, especially if they're funding it all. Or even if it's a 50-50 split, like you're both funding it, where that becomes a problem is, work ethic, what you're doing, what they're doing, that can become very complicated. So for me, I personally funded it out of my savings. I saved up for it, and it's just me and my wife. She's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and she's a black belt in Judo. And so we teach, when we opened, we taught all the classes. And any business decisions, it was, made between the husband and the wife, which is, husband and wife, making decisions on anything, even, like what's for dinner can be a challenge. But you're doing it out of a place of love, where you and your business partner, maybe not so much, So that can be a challenge, and I've seen it go bad in a lot of cases. So for me, the easy thing for me to do was just partner with my wife. We do it, and so we go to work every day, which is great for us. And we talk about our business, and we plan, and we make decisions together, and that's how we do it. So you need to plan that in advance. How you're going to fund it, and whether you're going to have a partner, and like the commitment of that partner, if you're going to have a partner. The big deal. So analyze your expenses in advance. Start looking at places for location. And I'll go into depth about finding a location. But when you start looking at places, look at where the other schools are in town, or if there is another school in the town that you're opening. How far is that school from you? A lot of times people say, oh, the market is saturated. Like here in San Antonio, they've got roughly 25 schools, give or take a few. Market is not saturated. Of those 25 schools, they probably combined got about 5,000 students. Maybe if I was being generous, 10,000 students. But the population of San Antonio is roughly 2 million people. So we have far less than even 1% of the population doing jiu-jitsu. So there's plenty of room for growth. But it has to be smart growth. You gotta have a business plan. You gotta go in it with your eyes wide open. So look at where the other schools are at, and start looking at places and what the rent cost would be for a place. And I'll talk more in depth about that in a later video. But you have to know what your costs are in advance. And what you don't want to do is focus on like, oh, well, let's say everybody in town is charging $150 a month. Okay, that's great. And you say, well, I'm just going to charge $100 a month. And that sounds great if you're going for the least expensive option. But the problem is, if you set the price before you know what your costs are, you could end up losing a tremendous amount of money, and then you're going to have to raise tuition fairly quick order. So you want to come up with like a little spreadsheet. Like, I don't know how well this will show up, but it's just a general idea of like, let's say, on my spreadsheet, it was like, what's the rent price? Like, say for our school, my location was a 2,000 square foot location in a strip mall, and my rent is like $3,300 a month. And then it's like, well, what's the utilities? My utilities is roughly $200 a month. So now we're up to $3,500. And then it's like, okay, well, what's the miscellaneous, like cleaning supplies, toilet paper, the things like that. It's probably another $100 a month. And then there's insurance that you're gonna have to get. And it's not the insurance for the people that got injured on the mats, but the insurance if like the place burns down or vandalized or burglarized. And also, if somebody walks in your front door and they slip and fall, they want to sue somebody because you're a business. So my insurance is roughly like $200 a month, for those little things. So those, I don't even know what number I came up with, but let's say we're up to, we're probably close to $4,000 a month in expenses. So let's say I set my tuition at $100 a month, and my expenses are $4,000 a month. That means I need 40 students to just break even. That's your break even cost. And then it's like, if you're going to hire instructors, how much is that going to cost? And then you have to look into that, like, well, how much profit do you need to make, to cover your bills? Let's say you're paying rent someplace, or your mortgage payment for your home, your car payments, your food, like, especially if this is your full-time job. How much do you need to make? And that all, once you put that all into a spreadsheet and you start calculating those numbers, then you can realistically set a price for, like, okay, this is what the tuition price needs to be. And you may or may not be the lowest price in your town, because it can't just be an arbitrary price. It has to be based on facts and data. So, like I said, we're going to do a series of videos. Please comment, put your questions down below. Let me know what topics you would like me to cover, and I'm going to cover them. And this is all free. Like, I don't do any paid consultation. I'm not selling any videos. You ask the question, I'll give the answer, because I got several of my students who are interested in opening up schools. I've got an affiliate up in the Dallas area that I know can benefit from this, and I'm opening up another affiliate in Universal City next month. So I've got schools that are opening or looking to open, and I can see how this could benefit them. And so whether it's them or whether it's you, and you could be a white belt and you're like, I think one day I'd like to have my own jiu-jitsu school. Now is a great time to start figuring out, like, what's all involved. And we're going to delve in and tackle whatever questions you have. And like I said, if we decide we want to do a live stream, maybe me and my wife, we can get on and do a live stream at some point and just answer questions live here on YouTube and give you the best answers we got. And I said, I'm not one of those dudes that pay me, I'll give you my $1 million profit plan, because I don't make $1 million by far. I drive a 2000 Chevy pickup truck. Not getting rich in this business. But life is good. I love what I do. And if I can help you in pursuing your dreams, I'd be thrilled to do it. All right, that's it for this week. Look forward to hearing your questions and answers. Talk to you soon. Ciao.